Thank you so much.
Want to be on TV?
Thank you for coming today. Today's a special day for a couple of reasons. It's a special day for me as a mayor because back in February of last year, I got an opportunity to meet an extraordinary woman. Mama Nkazi is here with me today. This is her. And she is one of the key drivers for an organization called IRRVA. And that is a Center for Immigrant and Refugee Resources. In fact, it stands for Immigrant and Refugee Resource Village of Albuquerque. And Mama Nkazi is a person who has a lot of gumption. She cares deeply for her. She cares deeply for her community, and she does beautiful work. Week or so ago, so long story short, back in February we met in my office. We met again in October of last year. And the topic of that discussion is what's happening with the refugee community in the city of Albuquerque. What can we do to make their experience in our community better? What can we do to create opportunity for the refugee community? You see, what happens a lot of times when the refugee community comes here, they get surrounded by services, whether it's Catholic services, Lutheran services, or others. They get to our city and they have some pretty great intensive early support. But then a lot of times that support due to lack of resources drops off. Not due to lack of caring, but lack of resources drops off. So if you would come to me to one of our immigration ceremonies in Albuquerque, you will find last week 190 people from 33 different countries. A month ago, 195 people from 45 different countries, some of them who are refugees. When you come here as a refugee, you have to wait 5 years to get your immigration status. One of the things that you have to do to get your United States citizenship is have a cursory understanding and capability in English. So Mama and I were talking about entrepreneurship. How can refugees in our community make a living? How can they provide income for their families? How can they learn English? How can they acclimate to our place while still holding on to the traditions of the places that they came? So that leads us here today. A week or so ago, we saw on the news that the van that the Mama Nkazi was driving had broken down and was almost to the point of being irreparable. But it's not irreplaceable. The refugee community certainly does take public transportation in our community. They have had some incidents where they have feared for their safety. And my call to the community on that today is we can do better than that. Number one, if you see somebody who is a refugee in our community, the best thing we can do, even if there's a language barrier, even if there's a cultural barrier, is to extend a hand and say welcome. And I got a nice hug from one of our young folks this morning. That is something that breaks down barriers, it breaks down boundaries, and it knows no country. Kindness knows no country. And so let's be kinder in our community. But then there's the logistical side of it. The refugee community has some challenges with transportation. So public transportation doesn't always run late enough for where they need to be. It doesn't always on the exact routes where they live. And so they need transportation. And that's what you see behind me. What you see behind me is a replacement for their van that broke down. And this is, I'd like to have the transit folks just come on up here, just stand up here, the people that have been working on this, Bruce Rosieri and the people from transit. So I went to my chief of staff when we saw the story in the media that their van had broken down, and I said, let's see what we can figure out. And so what we could figure out is the fact that you've seen some of these nice new Sun vans running around the community, the green and blue ones. We have almost 40 of those new vans. That means we've got some used vans. This behind me is a 2008 Ford E450 Series 2800 van. If we went down and sold this at auction, we might get $2,500 for it on behalf of the taxpayers. What we've decided to do today is to take this particular van with 268,000 miles on it. It's through with its useful life in public transportation. It can't handle those kinds of miles anymore, but it is safe to drive, we believe, and we believe it's adequate for what the group needs at IRRVA. And so we're making this donation on behalf of the taxpayers to this group, and it just feels good to do it. It feels good to say that this is a place where everybody has an opportunity. That Albuquerque is a place where everybody it can thrive. It's a place where we can all get together and help each other out, and that's what we're doing, a simple act of just trying to help you out today. And I know I've got some thanks to give, but Mama Nkazi, certainly. Lungile Sinandile is here also, right here. This is the gentleman right here, both from IRRVA, but from our transit department. I want to thank Bruce Rosieri. I want to thank Annette Pice, our deputy director. Sean and David. Are Sean and David here?
No, they're out in the field.
Okay, Sean and David helped us get some of the refugee community down here today. And so I'm going to let Mama Nkazi come up here and say a few words about what they're going to do with this van. But let's just be proud as a community that Albuquerque is a welcoming place, that we're a place that can step up and help all of our neighbors. Whether you're born and raised in the city of Albuquerque, we want you to have opportunities. If you're here as a refugee, we want you to have opportunities. This is a place where we can all thrive and be well. So congratulations. We'll hand the keys over in a minute, and once you say a few words and tell folks what IRRVA is doing, tell folks what you're doing, and then we'll make available for a comment after that. So Mama Nkazi, please.
Thank you so much to everybody who came today to support us. Thank you to all the volunteers that volunteered at IRRVA, especially those who teach English as a second language. I know that for a few months it's been very, very difficult for us to keep a consistent program going because the van has been breaking down almost every week. But I thank you for holding on and for being patient with us. I see you, Charlene, I see you, Patsy, and I see you, Vicky. Thank you for coming this afternoon. And I also want to thank the city for what it is doing at this time for our organization. For many, many years, we've been really struggling, but the community has really come out to support us. We do, at the center, we have a program called New Mexico Women's Global Pathways. That was founded by Asian and African women in 2009. Through that program, the women are able to create garments like what I'm wearing and what my husband is wearing, and many others, and bags like this one. And so with this, when supported, we're able to create these items, sell them, and then we're able to also, when we have funding, give the women machines, sewing machines, so they can sew at home. We also teach English not only to the adults that come to the center. The overall name of the center is Immigrant and Refugee Resource Village of Albuquerque. New Mexico Women's Global Pathways Enterprise is part of IRRVA. So these children, they depend on this on transportation every Monday and Saturdays. If Papa Lungile, my husband, they call him Papa Lungile. If he's not able to come and pick them, then they languish at home, and then they don't have a chance to read because they are all behind their reading levels and they're struggling in school. And so I'm not going to be long. I just want to say thank you for what you are doing for us. Thank you, tutors, for teaching us English so we can be able to write, to study, and write for the examination for citizenship, and then for helping these young children. Thank you, everybody, for helping us. Thank you, media, for telling our story because it is important. Thank you, Vision Sankofa, for supporting us. Khadija, I appreciate your help. Thank you so much.
Let's do one thing. So today the city's doing a small part to help. What else do you need? Make a call to the community. I know we talked about sewing machines. I know we talked about some other resources. If somebody's watching this story tonight and they want to know how they can help, what can they do?
Okay, if you want to help us, please, 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 we're looking for a place of our own. Right now, we're struggling a lot in that regard. We need a center that will house us because IRRVA is a healing place for these families. There's no other place like that in Albuquerque. A center, and if you want, you can send us money to add money to be able to. We still want a new van because there's a lot of us, but we appreciate this one because it's going to keep us going as soon as we get it. Thank you so much, community, for your support.
Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good job. Who's got the keys? Oh, here, hold on. Let me give you. Okay. Here we go. Official ceremony. Ready?
Thank you. Oh, I'm so sorry. It will not be appropriate for me not to thank Mariella, Terry, and all who work with you, and especially the mayor. Thank you so much for welcoming us and letting us know that from now on you're with us. Thank you so much.
You betcha. So there's your new keys to your van right
I'd like to give this one to my husband. Come take the key because he drives a lot too.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. So let's